I'm again, where I welcome you back into my studio for some Donald Kent art and chat. So I do a little art, I check the chat. Do a little more art, I check the chat. So we can share some thoughts on anything, really anything. My Telegram group is very, very based in terms of like the stuff that I talk about. Actually, it gets pretty esoteric in there. We're talking about aliens today and the 17 years of research that I did on that topic. Not for everyone, I get it. I'm never preachy about the stuff that I talk about or care about. I would just say, this is what I know. Do with it what you will. Sometimes we just share information because it's information. It's interesting. It enriches, our lives, or brings up interesting topics to explore. Blah blah blah. So, I guess one of the interesting things about just anything to do with just talking about new ideas or something is how people are very locked in to their views on stuff. And I'm totally, I guess, fine with that to the extent that you can rationalize or rationally, is that a word, rationally? Discuss it, give me the proof for why you feel that way. Convince me, sell me on your idea. It's not everything is an argument. It doesn't have to be a confrontation. And I don't really get that kind of approach to things where, we have to agree. Otherwise, I don't know. And I'm not saying the people in the chat were like that. I got some very, very cool people that follow me and stuff. But that's a general sort of rule that I find out there in social media. Had the I don't know if I want to talk about it, but there's some kind of dumb Karen type stuff that I saw recently on one of the public channels that I follow, and it's like not anything to like, it's nothing new or whatever. It's nothing special, but it's persistently annoying, and it's this kind of like I don't know, like what's the female white knight? What is the equivalent of the white knight for women? And it's always to do with sweeping in and what is it, like defending minorities or gays or this kind of shit. It seems to me, because Karen is not the word I'm looking for, and I generally don't like that word. I know that a lot of people in our sphere think it's like racist towards white women, and I don't entirely disagree with that, but I don't think it's racial. I guess it is racial for a lot of people, but to me it's more like, this person's crazy, and like, watch out for her, where am I going with all this stuff? I'm going all over the place in my usual fashion. Isn't it amazing? Just in a few minutes I can jump from aliens to Karens. What other YouTube channel can do that? I beg you to answer that. Tell you the value you get in this channel. I'm about to check the chat shortly here. I announced on Facebook that I will be going live at this time. And, I gave like a half hour lead time. So I don't expect a massive amount of people or something. But I do kind of like to see. I really have to lock in regular times. It's just sort of not professional to do this like, well, am I gonna do a stream now? I that isn't because I want to do it that way, but it's that way because of just life and the kind of circumstances that I'm in. I have a day off today, and there's just like a shit ton of dumbass problems that just fell out of the sky on my head, and I spent like most of the day on the computer and on the phone trying to put out fires. Just bad stuff, weird stuff that doesn't seem to have an explanation. I'm very much in a heads are gonna roll kind of mood right now in terms of like the bullshit that I'm dealing with. Whether or not these things change, it's just nonsense. It's not really interesting to hear about, I suppose. But anyway, let's see if we got. Holy cow! There's already 100 people here. Wow, it's amazing. It's incredible. I'm so happy. All right, I'm gonna draw for a bit. I don't know if I should shut up or if I should just muse. I do so like to muse. Maybe that's why I'm a musician. So funny. Anyway, what else is new? What else is going on? So there is a crowdfunder for Olivia Key, who is a great singer-songwriter in our sphere. She's it's not GoFundMe. What's it called? It's that Christian GoFundMe. Send me go or something. Go send me. I don't remember what it's called, but she is moving from Europe to America and needs some financial assistance. So I've sent that out. I will be donating to that. I am kind of having a crazy day, so it's not going to happen today. But happy to help out a friend. Quite honestly, this is the time when you show your friendship. This is the time when you prove yourself, as it were. So, yeah, it's like a friend of mine's going through a string of bad luck, and I'm just there every step of the way. You need $20, bang, here you go. You need a lift over there, bang, here you go. It's just mundane shit, it's just stupid, mundane shit that, like, life throws at you. I'm not gonna go into this guy's personal problems or whatever, but it's an extraordinary string of like horrible things that have happened to this poor guy throughout the year. Very, very close friend of mine, IRL, and it's just like, damn, So like, there's a side of me that's like, okay, this is some very bad karma coming to roost. It's how I process these things. But I don't know. There's this certain side to you that's like, okay, it's just a bucket of shit. You just gotta get through it. You just gonna plow through it like 100 other buckets of shit that you had to plow through. Um, and there you go. So what do we got here? Say hello in the chat if you will, so I can be polite and say hello back. Yes, so we're kind of carrying on from yesterday's piece. It's just a montage of Maga Force doing their thing, kind of showing off their powers. The main character here, Militiaman, he's got these golden guns that are very cool. But since he is sort of a law-abiding Boy Scout kind of character, he only uses like rubber bullets or non-lethal bullets. And his thinking is, of course, we're the good guys, and it's all for deterrence and these kinds of things. Because like he takes out mobs of like sort of Marxist cult members and stuff like that in the book. And I'm kind of heading into a big scene where that happens. I've got it penciled out. Well, I shouldn't say I've got it all penciled out. That's I've got the scene where they're essentially, heading into battle. It's sort of interesting because I think in the superhero world, that in itself is a sort of trope. Like, go back to Superman running into the telephone booth. Look at the old Adam West Batman shows where they would go to the Batcave by kind of running down those what do you call those, like fire bars, whatever the fuck they're called, fire bars. My English no good. Anyway, somebody must know what those things are called. Maybe we can put it in the chat. Look it up. All right, let's see what's happening here. We got. Let me take a look. I'm sorry. Conch is here. Hello, Conch. Welcome. Vardabach is back. Vardabach, are you in Europe? I'm just curious. And Conch, I have to say, when I was traveling in, where was I? I was down in the Caribbean a while ago. And for the first time, I ate conch, which was really yummy. It's similar to escargot, I guess. Kind of a snaily sort of creature. I like seafood. I'm okay with that. I got some interesting food stories from living in Asia for 5 years. One, I think it's not, I guess, like a super weird or crazy story, but like when I first went to Japan, they whatever, you get there and they hook you up with a homestay family, and it's a major event. These families, they're taking in an American student. I was like 19, 20 years old. It was, and they're Japanese. They just know how to do things right. They know how to celebrate. They know how to cook. They're just wonderful, lovely people. And and I got a really, really good family too, like a very traditional family. They lived in Osaka, which is a major city in sort of the central. It's considered the south, but I guess if you looked at a map, you can find it. Anyway, homestay mother, she's like a grandmother. Oba-san is what you would say in Japanese. She doted on me wonderfully. I mean, it was lovely to be kind of treated like that. It was just lovely. Anyway, so this is it. It's the big you know, coming home to meet your homestay family day, and everybody's all excited. I've got two homestay brothers, and the one has a girlfriend that speaks English very well. Thank God, you know, and so she's helping through the whole thing. I, had learned some basic Japanese in college before doing the exchange program, but by no means did I have like any kind of good capacity to speak the language. So she saved my tail. Um, anyway, I before going to Japan, I was always like, you know what? At some point, I'm gonna have to eat sushi. And at that time in my life, I was very like, oh, that sounds so nasty, like raw fish. It just made me gag. I thought this is just weird and nasty. And then here I am in the homestay party, the welcoming party, and what do? They bring like a gigantic sushi feast, with like, I'm sure it was not cheap. Um, Today I would have lost my mind. I would have been so happy, I would, because I freaking love sushi. It's probably one of my favorite foods now. But so I'm there and I'm like, okay, here we are, here we go, and this is it. 3, 2, 1, like that. And I was like, okay, that's not that bad. All right, what else is shaking in the chat here? You son of a conscious tasty. I had it last year when I was in Florida. There you go. Vardabox in Toronto. Awesome. I've been to Toronto. Chinatown, Dundas Street. What else? The AGO. I mean, I went mainly to see the Ontario. Did I say it right? Ontario Art Gallery. OAG. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but exquisite. I actually did a show with Geo. I don't know if you guys know Geo. He's a I'd say a big dog in our sphere regarding the arts. I believe he is out of Toronto as well. Um, Had him on a couple shows. I did. What show did I do? What's it called? Um, Afternoon at the museum with him and Joel Davis, which was very cool. I gotta say, Joel kind of stole the show. He sort of like turned the show into just a Joel Davis ranting about politics show. Rather than like, hey, let's look at some art and respond to it and do some cultural stuff. But you know what? I'm okay with that. He's Joel Davis, and he gives massive amounts of value to our scene, to our culture. So I'm gonna give him a pass. Okay. Um, I always think of Toronto as the New York City of Canada. I think that's kind of fair to say, but I don't think the cities are anywhere alike in character that I can tell. Maybe Vardabach, if I'm saying your name right, maybe you can uh, comment on that. That might be an interesting thing to expand on. So, yeah, I was watching. I don't know if you guys know the comedian Jim Gaffigan, but there was I don't know, clips of Jim Gaffigan in Canada making like jokes about Canada and stuff. And I'm a huge fan of Jim Gaffigan, so it's just one of the few comedians out there that isn't like horrendously degenerate in terms of his content and the rest of it. But you know, I it was just super funny. It was just some funny stuff. Um, I often feel like Canada and America are really like brothers. We have a lot of shared history, but what I as I learned more about Canada, I had Canadian friends over the years, is just how kind of British they are. Um, from an American perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. There's just some sort of connection to the crown that Americans don't have. Obviously, we're sort of the rebels, in some way, and historically, I don't know that we're rebels now, but yeah, I don't know. I have like a special place in my heart for Canada. I'll just kind of put it that way, I guess. How did you like Florida, Conch? You don't have to get into any whatever personal details or whatever if you don't want to, but you know, Florida is sort of made out to be like the conservative heaven, I guess. Republican heaven. Like Ron DeSantis and freedom and all this kind of stuff. At the same time, DeSantis is pretty clearly the chosen one by the globalists, as far as like who they want, you know, controlled opposition, the deal, how they work. Which is too bad because before I found all that out, I liked DeSantis. I thought, he was a guy, could be something, And then I was quite saddened, to see that that's not the actual deal of it. And I often wonder, like, how much of that is done under duress? Like, do the globalists or the deep state come and say, you know what, you are gonna, we've chosen you as our guy for, running for president or whatever, and if you don't do it, we'll kill your family. Because that's how they operate. I don't see it as being, they're a mafia, if anything. I think that's a fair thing to say. Or is he really like, Israel first and, all of that kind of stuff? And I think you could possibly say he is. I mean, but then again, that's the thing about politicians. It's like they talk and you're like, do they believe what they're saying? Because it's theater. It's just kind of meant to convince us, gain our trust, all that shit. I'm going to check the chat in a second here. I just have to kind of wrap up this one bit here. Yeah, comics illustration is definitely more tedious. It's not as free as, say, fine art or even fantasy art. Let me move that over a bit for you. Maybe I'll jump to another page as well, just to have some variety in visuals. What's going on here? So I'm going to read the chat. And what does it say? Let's take a look. Art gallery nice, near Queen Street. Used to be the artsy area back then. Yeah, it's kind of like a mini New York in a way. It was very British. 1987, they chose to become more independent. Oh, interesting. Well, I was in Fort Lauderdale, says Conch. I can't say much about the politics. In the airport, I heard Spanish on the loudspeaker for the Latino community. Not very rebellious, but hey, it's the airport. Yeah. I think that whenever I'm in airports or hospitals, waiting rooms, whatever, I always want to try to switch the channel off of CNN. I know there's, Fox has got its own yada yada yada, but like at least it's not freaking CNN, you know what I mean? which is just grotesque Marxist garbage. That kind of circles back to the thing I was sort of alluding to or talking about earlier about like the persistence of just liberals and like the stupidity that they have in the way they behave. My take is that it's a they're stunted emotionally and intellectually. That, pardon me, I'm sorry, that maybe somewhere around age 12, they stopped growing in some way. That it's easier to just kind of take on the ideas of others that, maybe sound really amazing or something, than to actually have ideas of your own. And then when everybody agrees on it, then there's this false consensus. And there you go. You've got the recipe for a faux intellectual. Someone who cannot admit they're wrong, cannot change when they're shown proof that they are wrong, and therefore would rather attack you than change. So it's a serious problem, obviously. I mean, that's an understatement. But the thing is, we haven't kind of gotten around it yet. We haven't really gotten over or through it yet. People in my family like that. People in my community like that. And like you just learn how to avoid them, or you learn how to avoid various topics. And it's stupid, it's weird, it's contorted, it doesn't feel natural. There's like people you can be yourself with, and then there's people you have to lie to. You literally have to lie to them, and in the sense that you're just sort of telling them what they want to hear to keep them off your back. A little story from about a week ago or so. There was a girl that I was kind of set up on a date with. It's a girl I knew in high school. I dated briefly in high school. And, I'm not going to lie, I was anxious about it. I was excited about it. It's been quite a few years since high school. So I thought, don't get yourself all up in a tizzy about this or whatever. Just like try to have some fun with it and see where it goes, In the first, in the first half hour, I could tell like she's a liberal lunatic now. She drank the Kool-Aid. Doesn't per se mean that she's a bad person or whatever. It's these are the views that she holds, and they're all propagandized. They're all just like what she was taught to believe, by the media. And but it's not just the media. It's their culture and whatnot. Anyway, there's nothing really new about that. I don't want to just kind of keep repeating the past. So if I go back to Canada, or rather Toronto, what would be some nice places to go? Because I've only ever really gone to Chinatown and the art gallery there. It's a world-class art gallery, but I'm pretty biased about that. Whenever I'm traveling, I want to go to the museums and the art museums, art galleries, etc. But I always feel like you can't really know a place unless you know someone in that place who can show you around. You know what I mean? Um, I guess I could try to find Geo or something. That could be cool. But yeah, it'd be neat to know. Oh my God, this is even crazier. So I'm in Toronto with. This is a while back. Okay, this is probably this is a good many years back, and I'm with my girlfriend of the time. And some years earlier, I had dated another girl in New York City who her sister lived in Toronto, and she wanted to move up there, and it was just a thing that we would talk about, whatever. Well, here I am walking down the street in like the hipster neighborhood or whatever with my new girlfriend, and who should be standing across the street at the stoplight facing me but my old girlfriend from New York City. Oh man. Oh, it was really kind of more sad than anything, like, because we didn't like break up on we didn't break up because we wanted to. She moved back to her home country, and that was it. It was just like it wasn't going to work, kind of thing. So you can kind of imagine it would have been like a scene in like an indie movie, like a sad romantic indie movie. And then their eyes fell upon each other. Oh my God, I can't believe I haven't seen you in so long. All right, so what's in the chat here? Save me from myself. You kind of, it's like mini New York. Not very well. Hey, Crusader 21 is here. It would not be the same without you, buddy. Thanks for coming. All right, so we're just cruising on some art. I guess I'm sort of kind of feeling like I did this page last night, so I sort of feel compelled to do a different page. This is kind of neat in terms of like the sequence of things. So here you're meant to see like a TV montage of the characters, and then here you're meant to see the people in the television studio with all the screens, the soundboard, and then you have like the executive producer, who is of course a silhouette, and smoking a cigar, and he's got his sort of like quasi Freemason ring on, and then like using things like this kind of curved edge on this panel. It implies that it's like a TV screen. You see what I'm saying? Then you have a kind of a moment-to-moment transition here where you've got the executive, looking at Militiaman, thinking nefarious thoughts about how I'm using this guy to create controlled opposition among the Christian right. And then, next moment he takes the cigar out and he blows the smoke across here. And then he's holding out his cross that he's got under his shirt, just talking about his faith. And then, of course, the people in the scene, all kind of, digging it, getting into it. So there you go. All right, I'm going to keep cruising here. If you guys want to share this link in your networks, I would appreciate that. Let people know what I'm doing. So, as you know, this is going to take a while to complete. So I'll be hacking away at this for quite a while. And I've been meaning to bring on some guests just to have other people to talk to. Again, it's like without having like a good lead time and planning this ahead, it doesn't work all that well. I gotta lock in some times, is essentially what I'm saying here. So it's wild because, before my mom passed away, I was doing shows. I would do 3 shows a week. I'd have all kinds of big guests on. It was really, really cool. I was at my peak, um, and just really happy to be doing that kind of work, etc. Um, it was also the movement, I think, was in a different state or different stage. And I think we still felt a sort of need to have a consensus about things. We were still exploring ideas. The arts is not something that I guess is talked about in depth in the right wing, if you will. So it was always a sort of a niche that I've got a hold of, being an artist and an art teacher. That was always something that I could talk about with authority and lead on, as well, because you've got, it's just that it's its own thing, if you want to talk about, history, you talk to a history teacher, or something like that. If you want to talk about art, you talk to an art teacher. And it was quite great how many people in our sphere are interested in the arts and understand the value of dissident right art, art and culture. Of course, mm, it's, nobody talks to the dissident right. We're ghettoized, and so, you always come, every once in a while you come across these articles about, like, there is no arts and culture in the right wing. They're just a bunch of stupid hicks, and all they like to do is drink beer and shoot their guns. And if they only knew, like, the intellectual and cultural prowess that we have, I think they'd be terrified. That's the thing. They don't want to know. They don't want to know us. They don't want to hear us. And I would say that largely that's because they're scared that they're wrong and they don't want to be proven wrong. Who does, for that matter, What else can I say about it? I don't know. Maybe I should just shut my mouth. Stop talking like an ingrate. Let's see if we've got any comments here. Who's here? Okay, Toronto has some nice areas, unique bars and stuff. I've been out of the scene, but I'm sure there's lots of cool stuff to see and do. Yeah. Hey, fam, CG is here. CG, tell us about your recent episode. You just had a show last night, I believe, correct? So you can chat about that a touch, I would say. Yeah, I've been learning more and more about Ukraine, what's going on. It's just to me, it's like a super complicated mess. And I think, like, there's what I know about it, and then there's probably so much more that I should know about it, that kind of thing. I often kind of think through, like, what about, like, the ordinary Ukrainian people, Not, I don't know. I don't want to, like, embarrass myself because this is not my field, but there's a lot of criminals there. There's a lot of corruption there. There's a lot of people that come from a certain ethno-religious background that I understand are leaving, which is an interesting aspect of that whole thing. It's really nice of you guys to join me. I appreciate it a lot. Not super sure what. Um, I guess it's just chill. It just seems to be the main thing that people are like, this is just so relaxing. I don't know why. It could be my voice. I don't know, but I always feel as if like, you know what, you're live. You'd better be entertaining people. You know, you'd better be saying something interesting, Donald. Um, and I might not always be interesting, but I think I could always be a little entertaining, somewhat, especially when I pull out the accents. You know. I suppose I can talk about the story a bit. So this character here, all of these, the sort of like evil 12, the Council of 12, if you will, they're all modeled on the Frankfurt School, and there's enough reference there where people can, be inspired to look things up, to understand the history and purpose of the Frankfurt School, how and why it relates to everything that we're dealing with today in the West, um, every aspect. Something I was looking at today was the idea that in, I guess, fourth or fifth generation warfare, you don't know who's attacking you. You don't know who your enemy is, or you can't see them, like kind of explicitly. Um, this, of course, is like diabolical in its own regard. Um, you and I know who it is, but I just find that interesting. And I have to be honest, I mean, I do think from a martial perspective in terms of like, well, what could we be doing? How, what lessons could we learn from our enemies? How could we use this to our advantage? And this is probably a discussion that's been had out there somewhere, but and I've heard different sides of it in the sense of like, we don't want to act like our enemies. We don't want to use for starters, they know these techniques, whatever. But secondly, they're, degenerate and blah, 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 all this kind of moral, the sort of moral conundrum or problem, excuse me, I would argue that morality is a great way to lose a war. That war is not won by morality, and that's a very harsh thing to say, but I don't see how it's untrue. I think this is one of the problems with our people, is how moral we are. That works fine in groups and homogenous societies, right? Not really a new idea, though. It's only new or relevant in the regard of like, well, what should we do then? Like, what can we do? What do we feel comfortable doing? We're kind of out there fighting a meme war, and doing all that stuff, but I don't know. It opens up some pretty hot topics, I guess. Things that you're really not allowed to talk about on YouTube. And there you go. And now you know. But these are interesting topics that I go over with people on Telegram and elsewhere, where you can have a little more free speech. And I would say that I'm actually the, like, not the weak one, but I'm the one with like the sort of most milk toast ideas or like approach to these things. Anyway, I think I should probably steer away from that for now on this platform. Anyway, so what else is going on? See if you guys are doing anything interesting over here on the chat. Can't believe it's already been 45 minutes. Gosh. No, looks like you guys are just chilling with the villain. All right. So like I said, I'll check the chat periodically. If you guys want to ask me something or bring up something that you want to talk about, that's cool. We can do that. So in this story, so originally I was going to call this graphic novel MAGA Force, but I kill off MAGA Force after the first issue, except for Militiaman, and their death is a big part of his transformation. I think that we've all transformed, in the last several years with everything that's happened. I would say that, like all the riots had a huge part in that. The open, what's the word? Like the open tyranny, the fact that nobody is held accountable, nobody goes to jail in the government, or I mean, there's some people, but it's quite small compared to what we know should happen, and these things are demoralizing, and I would say that our enemies like it that way. They want us to be hopeless. They want us to lose faith. I mean, I feel like it's good to lose faith in the system because the system is bullshit. It's democracy is a bullshit system. Government is essentially it's just a giant gangster operation, run by people that are sociopathic. It's funny, like it's not funny, but I don't know how to say it. It's sort of like really the people have to take this in our own hands, but we know what happens when people do that, and it's dangerous. A lot of us don't know how. There's a whole question as to like how would we do this. Yeah, I guess I get pretty black pilled. I used to be very, very like positive, and you couldn't black pill me if you tried. I was always, you know, that guy with a positive word that no matter how bad things got, I found a silver lining, that kind of thing. But now it's not like that anymore. It's not to say that I don't believe we're going to win or that we can't win or blah, blah, blah. I'm not giving up. But I just feel that white people need to find a way. We need to find some other way around this. You know what I mean? Um, I guess there's an idea out there that they're trying to make it so that we will fight. You know, that they'll push us and push us to the point where, for example, Florida just, or was it Florida or Tennessee? I can't quite remember, but there's been some states passing laws prohibiting gender mutilation of children. You know the whole story. And so, sure enough, next thing you see over on CNN or whatever is like, oh, President Biden is he's not a president. The crook that stole the election. Um, that he's creating some kind of law to stop these states from doing that. I mean, it's just the freaking sheer evil of these people. The it's just it's overwhelming, and it really just, that's what I'm telling you. I mean, I don't know, like, how far will we go, and I have to commend a lot of just ordinary people that are not, like, sort of essentially political or whatever, and they're just saying, like, this shit's fucking crazy. Like, I'm so glad my son is not